In the shadow of a demon-haunted past, can a woman find redemption's light? Mary Magdalene, a timeless name, is not only a witness to the resurrection, but a vibrant symbol of grace and unshakable faith. Her untold story begins on the dusty streets of Magdala, where pain, isolation, and prejudiced whispers couldn't quench her longing for healing. Mary stands as proof of divine justice and second chances, a biblical woman who rose above her past to become a beacon for lost souls. Are you ready to explore her journey? Subscribe to dive into the world of faithful women, where love and trust shatter every limit. Magdala, a small town nestled by the Sea of Galilee, awoke each morning to gentle waves and the pungent scent of drying fish. Narrow, maze-like alleys wound through rough stone houses. The day began with hurried steps, women hauling fish, children trailing behind, greetings mingling with the clatter of woven baskets. Under a drowsy sun, the town painted a vivid, if rugged, picture of ordinary life, simple, raw, alive. Amid this deceptive calm, a woman slipped through the crowd, Mary Magdalene. She moved neither fast nor slow, but no one drew near. Glances flicked her way, then darted off as if her gaze carried contagion. Whispers followed, some grimaced. Others rerouted their paths to avoid her presence. To them, Mary wasn't just a woman. She bore a cursed name, the one possessed by 7 demons. No one knew her full story. Rumors spoke of her raving in the marketplace, screaming, or sitting motionless at midnight like a ghost. They knew but didn't understand. They didn't see her sleepless nights, tormented by voices denying her rest. They couldn't feel the invisible fear stalking her every breath, every step. To them, Mary was a stain on Magdala's already bleak canvas. Unseen was her heart, still yearning for forgiveness. Despite rejection, Mary clung to hope. Though shunned and isolated, a faint spark endured, not grand or dazzling, but enough to carry her through each day. She had no status, no noble lineage. No one spoke of her parents, her loves, or if anyone loved her. Mary lived among laborers, fish sellers, weavers, women scraping by. Unlike them, she fought a battle only God could fathom. In that suffering, faith began to flicker. Then news of a stranger swept Magdala. They called him Teacher Jesus, a man from Nazareth who, tales claimed, healed all ailments, made the lame walk, the blind see, and crucially, cast out demons. His name echoed in markets, homes, and dockside taverns. Some scoffed, others doubted, but for Mary, each story was sunlight piercing her soul's darkness. She couldn't explain her pull to these tales. No talk of hope had ever stirred her so. Jesus echoed in her mind like an unseen summons. At night, lying still, eyes fixed on the ceiling, her heart raced, recalling his name. She hadn't seen his face or heard his voice, yet a fragile faith rose, that he alone might be strong enough to touch and heal her wounds. Reality, though, was a stubborn wall. Mary knew her place, a nameless woman, demon-possessed, untrusted, unprotected. Could someone like her approach a revered teacher? Could she step from shame's shadows, past judging eyes, toward the light her heart craved? The question clung like a relentless trial. She wanted to believe, to move, but each time she felt ready, old wounds dragged her back. She recalled the vegetable seller's sneer, Neighbors hushed gossip. A child yanked away for staring too long. Those hurts cut so deep they seemed part of her. Hard to cleanse, harder to forget. But stronger than scorn was her hunger for freedom, not of body, but of soul. Mary refused to live as a shadow any longer. She wanted her name spoken without curses, to meet others' eyes without fear. Above all, she wanted proof that life held a miracle for her. Here, Mary Magdalene's story truly begins, not at her healing or as Christ's disciple, but in the moment she chose to believe that a woman forgotten by the world could still be touched by God's love. To reach that moment, Mary fought not against people but against the invisible chains binding her soul in darkness for years. Dusk fell over Magdala in a blaze of golden sunlight. Rays pierced thin clouds, casting a sacred glow over the small square where people gathered. Gentle breezes carried sea salt in distant waves' whispers, like nature's murmured prayer. At the square's heart, all eyes fixed on one figure, Jesus, the one they called Teacher. He spoke, and the crowd hung on each word, as if his voice could calm their inner storms. Apart from the throng in a shadowed corner, Mary Magdalene stood frozen, her hands trembled, feet rooted to the ground, unable to take a single step. The distance to Jesus was mere dozens of paces, but to Mary it stretched longer than any road she'd walked. It held her entire life, a life pushed to the margins, met with cold stares and ceaseless rumors. Within her raged a fierce battle. Voices, born perhaps from years of wounds, screamed in her mind, mocking, tearing at her sanity. You're unworthy, you're defiled. Who gave you the right to approach? Each time her heart urged a step, those voices tightened like invisible chains. Old fears, shame woven into her very flesh, surged with relentless force. She felt every piercing glance, icy, suspicious, contemptuous. Some recognized her. They whispered, eyes flicking before turning away, as if she were a stain no one dared touch. Mary didn't blame them. She'd once despised herself, yet something kept her from fleeing. A smoldering ember deep within, not quite hope, but a flickering faith. It stemmed from a strange dream. The previous night, Mary hadn't slept. Alone in her small room, head against a cold stone wall, moonlight spilled through a narrow window. In a weary, tear-streaked haze, a radiant light bathed her face. A voice, gentle yet firm, spoke. Believe. She jolted awake, heart pounding. Was it a delusion or a divine call? The feeling lingered, undeniable, piercing the wall she'd built over years to shield herself. Believe in whom? In what? She didn't know. But one truth was clear. She couldn't return to her old life. So she stood here, torn between torment and an unseen summons. Jesus' eyes scanned the crowd, and when they briefly met hers, the world seemed to pause. His gaze held no judgment, no scorn or pity, just profound understanding, shattering her heart. In that look, she saw herself, not her past, but her potential for rebirth. No command, no push. Her fragile, trembling faith brought her to her knees. For a moment, the crowd stilled. A sea breeze chilled her skin, but she felt nothing. Tears streamed down her cheeks, each drop washing away years of darkness. No pleas, no cries.
Her silence was her loudest voice, a soul's desperate call from its depths. Jesus approached her. The crowd parted, yielding a path. No one spoke, but all eyes followed. He didn't address the onlookers or justify his actions. He simply placed a hand on Mary's head, a light touch, carrying power beyond worldly comprehension. A cold gust swept the square. Leaves rustled, dust swirled. In that instant, the demons in Mary's mind fell silent. No more screams, no more chains, only stillness and a soul set free. But the trial wasn't over. As Jesus turned away and the crowd stirred, whispers grew sharper. Is she truly forgiven? Can someone like her change? Though healed, Mary faced those stares like needles piercing a fresh wound. In that moment, she understood her journey wasn't finished. Forgiveness didn't guarantee acceptance. Touching light didn't erase darkness instantly. But one thing was certain. She was no longer the woman she'd been. Faith had taken root. Light had reached her, and she wouldn't turn back. From the moment Jesus' gaze pierced Mary's soul, from the instant his hand rested on her head, banishing the darkness that once ruled her mind, Mary Magdalene was no longer the woman she had been. The oppressive silence of Magdala's alleys, where she once hid from judging eyes, faded into memory. In her heart, a door had opened, leading her from the chains of her past toward radiant light. Mary didn't retreat to a familiar life or seek quiet safety. She did what no one in that prejudiced society, especially of a woman labeled demon-possessed, expected. She rose and followed Jesus. This wasn't merely a spiritual choice, but a bold declaration in a world steeped in bias. A woman, unmarried, childless, without status, dared abandon everything to follow a teacher. To many, it was madness. For women then, even accessing spaces of learning was a luxury, let alone trailing a prophet. But Mary no longer craved worldly approval. She'd spent a lifetime pleasing others' gazes. Now she lived to follow the light she believed could redeem her. Among Jesus' followers, Mary held no formal title. She wasn't named an apostle or etched in the era's records, yet her presence was indispensable. Quietly but devotedly, she served, not with grand words but through actions, preparing meals, tending the sick, sharing resources, and above all, staying steadfast. Mary became a pillar for others, especially women scarred by rejection. They saw in her a spark of hope. If someone once branded demon-possessed could find healing and become a beloved disciple, they too could claim a second chance. Her faith wasn't loud preaching, but a lived example, humble, loving, compassionate. On journeys with Jesus, Mary learned what no school could teach. True kindness knows no bounds, and divine love has no limits. She saw miracles not only in wonders, but in moments of understanding. A person called by their name, free of sinful labels. One day passing through Samaria, a land Jews scorned, the group paused in a hillside village. Word of Jesus spread, drawing crowds but also wary glances. At the village center, a woman faced exile. Rumors branded her a sinner, guilty of an unforgivable offense. As she appeared, children fled. Adults hurled stones and curses. She stood trembling, cowering in a storm of prejudice. Mary saw herself in that broken figure. Without hesitation or permission, she stepped forward. Amid the crowd's stunned gazes, she embraced the woman,
an ordinary act to some, a miracle to her. No sermon was needed. A whisper sufficed to melt a heart. "I was once like you." Silence fell. The woman wept, not from fear, but because after years someone stood by her. That night, as the group camped on the village outskirts, Mary sat alone under a starlit sky. The air was still, crickets blending with the soft breaths of resting companions. The Milky Way blazed like a luminous veil across the heavens. Gazing up, Mary's heart swelled. No mystic sign was needed. Her inner peace confirmed she walked the right path. She sought no recognition, no praise. All she needed was knowing each step, word, and embrace contributed to a healing greater than herself. Yet, as stars shone, a strange sensation crept in, a premonition, like a cold breeze grazing her neck. The light wouldn't always blaze. A great trial loomed. The whisper in her mind was no longer darkness, but a gentle warning. Be ready. Mary, once cloaked in shadow, now braced for a turbulent season of faith, where not just life but belief itself would be tested. Jerusalem was no longer calm. The air thickened with whispers, hurried footsteps, and fear seeping through every alley. A teacher had been arrested, a righteous man dragged off like a criminal. News of Jesus' seizure, brought before Jewish leaders and then the Roman governor, spread like wildfire. The city held its breath. In the chaos, disciples scattered. Those who once stood shoulder to shoulder, swearing loyalty, vanished like shadows. None dared step forward, fearing they'd be next. Fear had trumped allegiance. But amid the desertion, one woman remained, Mary Magdalene. She didn't flee, not because she was fearless, but because she couldn't abandon the one who gave her a second life. Her love was no mere emotion. It was absolute fidelity, an unbreakable being, unshaken even if the world crumbled. Then came the tragedy's peak, Golgotha. Jesus was led through jeering crowds, bearing a heavy cross. Blood flowed, his body torn, yet his eyes shone not with pain, but with love. Mary stood at the cross's foot, heedless of horrified stares or venomous taunts. She didn't wail or scream, but silent tears traced her cheeks, carrying a grief deeper than words could express. That moment tested her faith to its core. No miracles appeared, no promises echoed. She saw only a condemned man dying in agony. Yet Mary stayed, not expecting a different outcome, but because love needs no reason. As Jesus breathed his last, the sky seemed to collapse. Her heart shattered. His teachings, her hopes for a healed world, all seemed to vanish in a final sigh. That night, sleep eluded her. Jerusalem's sky was pitch black, mourning something immense. She sat in darkness, not praying, enveloped by emptiness. But in that endless night, in a dream or vision, she saw a garden, not ordinary, but radiant with light. A familiar voice, soft as dawn's breeze, spoke, "It is not over." Those words stirred something within. Though her heart remained heavy at first light, Mary went alone to Jesus' tomb. To him. The path was desolate. No one joined her. This wasn't a journey of hope, but of love. She longed to be near him one last time, to touch the cold stone and whisper farewell. But at the tomb, the sealing stone was rolled away. The grave was empty. Panic seized her. Her heart raced. Thoughts swirled. Who stole his body? Who dared defile her last sacred tie? In anguish and confusion, she turned away. Then a voice, not loud or fierce, but tender, called, "Mary." She spun around. Morning light slanted through the garden, and there he stood, unmistakable. It was him. Jesus had risen. In that instant, pain dissolved. No explanation was needed. Her heart knew all. His eyes, his voice confirmed everything she'd believed, hoped, and lived for. Tears welled, but she stood still, not from doubt, but from overwhelming joy. Jesus hadn't just risen. He gave Mary a mission, not to preach far and wide or perform wonders, but something simple yet profound. Proclaim the good news. Mary became the first witness to the resurrection, the first to carry the message of new life to humanity. This came not from scholarship or power, but from unwavering loyalty, faith refined in suffering. Her mission wasn't glamorous, yet it touched the soul's core. Mary, once rejected, once shadowed, now bore the light of new life. From that moment, her story was no longer tragedy, but a vibrant testament. Love never dies, and faith is never in vain. Mary Magdalene's untold story doesn't end at the empty tomb. It lives on in every heart that loves, hopes, and stays, even when others turn away. Some enter the Bible not with crowns or glory, but with wounds. Mary Magdalene is one such soul. Her name once conjured darkness, rumors, tormenting voices in her mind, a past society wouldn't let fade. Yet, from that deepest shadow, a flame sparked, small at first, but fierce enough to warm a world growing cold to faith. Mary wasn't a hero in the conventional sense. She didn't ascend platforms or wield swords or scepters. Her weapon was different, unconditional loyalty. She loved Jesus not for grand promises, but because his presence revealed her true worth, a truth she'd never known. From a woman society spurned, Mary embarked on an unthinkable journey. Without title or formal invitation, she simply chose to follow the light. That choice ignited a chain of courageous acts, staying when others fled, loving when hearts closed, believing when hope seemed lost. What set her apart wasn't her deeds, but how she lived post-forgiveness. Many see forgiveness as an end, a reward for repentance. For Mary, it was a beginning, a new life unbound by her past. She didn't live for herself, but to reflect the light she'd received. That's grace's essence, not hoarded, but shared like dawn's first rays. In following Jesus, Mary sought no status or praise. Her presence alone testified to transformation's power. She knew the sting of being marginalized, the pain of being a forgotten past. That experience made her a spiritual anchor for other women lost in darkness, seeking a way out. Mary didn't preach with loud words. She taught through empathetic presence and loving silence. Her stand at the cross when others abandoned Jesus was her truest testament of fidelity. No miracles, no angelic voices, just the terrifying silence of loss. Yet she stayed. Because of that, she became the first to witness the resurrection, not just Jesus' return, but her own rebirth and humanity's hope. Mary Magdalene proves no one is too far gone to be called back. No past is too dark for light to reach. No wound too deep for grace to heal. Her presence in the Gospels isn't a minor detail, but a bold declaration. In God's kingdom, no one is forgotten. Today, in a noisy world of prejudice and achievement, Mary's story reminds us, you don't need perfection to start anew. You don't need society's approval to embark on faith's journey. You need only one thing, courage to believe light awaits. If you felt lost, wounded, or burdened by old mistakes, remember Mary was there too. She rose, not because she was stronger, but because she trusted God was stronger than her past. You can do the same today. Her story doesn't end at the empty tomb or the garden's call. It lives in every soul seeking a way back, wrestling with pain, yearning to be loved again. Mary became a symbol, not for perfection, but for refusing to reject light when it knocked. If you're in darkness of mind, life, or faith, know you're not alone. Mary was there. If she found a way out, so can you. Light never forgets anyone. It waits for you to turn and step forward. This isn't just an ancient tale. It's an invitation for you. A call to step past fear, shame, and prejudice. Grace is unconditional, and hope, as Mary lived, is ever present, waiting for your open heart. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, share it with those seeking light, and comment below. A shared story can become a miracle for someone in need. May God bless you. See you in the next story where another woman, Ruth, shows how love, loyalty, and redemption can transform a life's destiny.